wondering, other than when he's serving, if he serves well, he can get in. If he doesn't serve well, and on most of the service games, how's he going to get in? Well, that's a good start. Because I don't think he can slog it out with Mustafa in the back of the court. There'll be no profit in that.
15 love. $30 love. $40 love.
Well, that's a wonderful start. He's immediately got good rhythm on his serve, and I'm reminded that one thing Henman has got, one of his great qualities, he loves the big occasion. Now, how's Henman going to get into the forecourt and attack Musta when Musta's serving?
Love 15.
It was a good start by Henman. I was quite surprised Thomas Musta got 2 forehands off Henman's serve and absolutely hit them as hard as he could. They were still going up as they hit the back fence. I'm not sure of the rationale behind that. Jerry, I've always been of the opinion that when playing a baseline of the calibre of Thomas Musta, at the start of the match, don't let him get into any sort of a groove. Don't hit 10, 20 and 30 ground shots with him. I just feel that Tim really has to abbreviate the points.
15.
Musta won't mind playing long rallies, and the longer they play, the better they get grooved. They get their eye in and they become quite lethal on the passing shot. If you give them as few chances as possible, often you're better off.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of tactic that he would thought out with David Felgate, that he's going to wait for an opportunity to attack, and then he's going to get underneath the ball, slide it low, like that.
He really did make that high backhand smash look easy. It's not an easy shot. And the wind today a little bit swirly.
Yes, he's done it again. That's the perfect start for him.
2 games to love.
Yes, you know, leading into Wimbledon, he wasn't playing all through well. And then suddenly, when he got to Wimbledon, he looked a different person. And I'd forgotten. I should remember these things. He's a player who, instead of being intimidated by the big occasion, thrives on it, in my judgment. That's a wonderful thing.
One thing I like about Henman, and you talk about the big occasion, at Wimbledon, he's gone into several matches that have been very important to him, where he's really been the favourite. And he's played some really accomplished tennis. Often, it's easy to do that when you are the underdog, not when you're the favourite. Does have a good head on his shoulders.
He's made the backhand a target. I suppose it was very obvious he was going to do that. He has to be just slightly wary because he can run round those. So you mustn't allow him to have time to run round and hit that in forehand.
the best dance album.
Service games by Henman put him in this position. Must have loved 3. He needs to get his name on the score sheet and start to try and find some rhythm and a groove.
Love 15.
Every time he's gone in on the backhand, and I think he's won every point when he's done so.
Well, Henman's playing perfect
Love
tennis
30.
at the moment. He's really standing on the baseline. He's not allowing himself to be pushed back behind the baseline, so that when the short ball does arise, he's right there. Take it on the rise and take advantage of it.
Fifteen, 30.
Well, he was definitely aided there by the net cord Muster.
Well, that's going to make Muster think again, because it looked to me as if the Austrian had decided that he wasn't going to concede the
15-14.
forecourt to Henman. Henman can go have a double break here.
Thirty, 40. Deuce.
Well, Muster saving a couple of break points with some good tennis. Maybe just coming up one level in intensity. Quite noticeable to me that he's really trying to crush the ball out there today at the moment, Muster.
Advantage Muster. Again, Muster.
Now, that might just be the start of Muster's recovery, because I think he's been knocked right back, winded really, psychologically, by the flying start that Henman's got. 3-1.
Just get the feeling that maybe Muster didn't come out quite as prepared as he should have been. Normally he comes out smoking. He's constant movement on the court in between points. It just seemed a little flat at the start of this match. Henman, by contrast, has been very alert. He's been moving well.
15
Obviously
love.
a good preparation.
Love.
Henman's first serve percentage at the moment is 70%.
Yet to lose a point on serve.
40 love.
One thing in Henman's favour here today, and quite often you'll see Thomas Muster, he starts his returning stance on the baseline or near it, and as he goes to hit the return, he moves backwards. And that really will allow Tim that extra step or two into the net. Well, it's a great return. Look how deep he is in the court, but managing to whip it at the toes of Henman. Good pick up, but just not deep enough.
Oh, if he goes on harrying in these first serves like this, he's going to be very difficult to stop. It's a wonderful start for Henman. 4-1 he leads first set. It's Telltale Breeze just making Henman's shirt flutter a bit.
Well, in my opinion, that's a great tactic from Tim Henman there. He had a deep forehand on this occasion. Sorry, it was a backhand. Now, Muster not known for his great volleys. Henman just went straight back at him, made him play another volley. Tim, to me, just looks to be not giving Thomas too much pace. He really has taken quite a bit off that backhand slice. He's really floating it around the court.
30-15.
That's the best game he's played. That reduces the leeway to 4-2.
And leads by 4 games to 2.
I was just thinking, you know, that Henman's had a long time, well, they both have, to think about this match since the draw was made. Here we are Wednesday. And the same thing happened at Wimbledon a year ago when he had a long time to think about playing Kafelnikov. But today, as then, far from unnerving him, it seems to lift him.
Yes, it can be a good or a bad thing. You've got a lot of time to prepare for a particular opponent. You've also got a lot of time to get nervous. But he really does look to be enjoying the fact that he's playing out there on the stadium, the opportunity to get out here on this new centre court. Henman is a nice guy, but he also plays a nice game of tennis, and he's quite a popular guy to practice with. Quite often you see Sampras and Chang enlisting his services, so he's spent quite a bit of time out here on the centre court prior to this match.
Yeah, Henman.
And continues to play his service game quite beautifully. And that stretches lead the first set to 5-2.
Love 15.
He mentioned it before, Jerry, but Worcester actually looks quite keen to get to the net himself, feeling that if he stays back, Henman's going to dominate. He's going to try and make Tim play a few passing shots of his own.
Yes, and I think, you know, in you saying that, that means to me that Henman's actually won the first battle, the battle of the psychology of the match. Get Mustard to change his pattern.
(40-15).
Yes, he's certainly starting to work his way in now, but 5-3. And Henman now is going to serve the first set, and if he... And the other is the quality, the incisiveness of Henman serving. 100%, when he's got the first serve in, he's won every point he's served. Now you think about that.
Well, that drop volley is always a risky shot on hard court. The ball does bounce so high, but Tim Henman just takes all the pace away from what was a pretty vicious forehand. Just notice he just dropped the racket face on impact. Just breaks that wrist.
(30-15).
He tried at the start, he tried to just bludgeon the ball to try and intimidate Henman, and it didn't work at all.
Looking at Thomas Muster, it's always an indication for me. The more fidgety he gets between points, the quicker he is around the court, the more times he tugs his shirt. It's always an indication of his intensity level, and he just seems to be raising it at the moment.
Henman, for the first time on his serve, is having to fight here.
(40-30).
He's got a set point. Close enough with that serve to just look up at Bruno Rabiot in the umpire's chair to say, "You sure?" Was that?
I thought that serve was well in, to be honest, Jerry.
Well, he's got the first set. He's got it in a completely decisive manner. He's come out like a spring. I can remember just seeing him start. I remember, was it, what, 3 years ago? Against, who was it, Stich in the final? Agassi came out and played a match like this. Do you remember that? And,
I don't know what happened on that one.
You know, the pace he played with and the sharpness of his game was quite astonishing. Well, I think that's so here. The question is whether, A, Henman can sustain that.
What I said at the beginning of the match, the other players have been saying Tim had been making a lot of unforced errors recently.
(15 low).
Well, once again, Muster trying to take them away from Henman and showing pretty good touch there on the backhand volley.
(30 low).
can't say I've ever seen Mr. come in as much as this in any match.
30-15.
Well, you couldn't have fault the approach of Tim Henman there, straight down the middle of the court, inches from the line. But Muster able to generate so much racket head speed and create a great angle of his own.
And Muster. First game.
Yes, that's a much better start by Muster to the second set. And he leads 1-love. Making the point just now, Wally, that I'd never seen Muster come in as much as that. I mean, I think that really that's a compliment. He's playing Henman. It'd be interesting to see whether Henman, having been passed so well by Muster, which is that 1 point was really vintage Muster, be interesting to see whether that in any way puts a speck of doubt in Henman's mind. I think it won't, incidentally.
No, I don't think it will at all. Tim is a very clever player. He plays good tactical matches, and he knows that he just can't afford to stay back too long against this guy. And I don't think he'll be at all displeased that Muster's making an effort to come to the net, because that's not going to faze Tim at all. He has good ground strokes, he doesn't mind a target, and he returns serve very well. So he'll probably be feeling pretty good about things at the moment.
Time.
Saying how much Muster is trying to convince the world, and probably himself as well, that he really is a winner on hard courts, which he never used to be. He's won only 2 titles this year, not one on clay. I mean, just think about that. Both on hard courts, on this surface, Dubai and Key Biscayne. Well, that was 2 points, really.
Well, that was the rally of the match so far. Tim probably just getting a bit cute with that high forehand volley. He tried to fade it away cross court, and it really did sit up. Might have been better just to bang it away down the middle. I think that Muster's progress on hard courts was hindered by the fact that he had that knee reconstruction all those years ago, and he really stayed away from hard courts for a lot of, 3 to 4 years, believing that it was just no good for his knee. Spent most of his time on the clay, a lot kinder surface to the body.
(30-15).
Speed of that last serve, 124 miles an hour. It's just short of his fastest so far in this match, 125 miles an hour. Now, the weight in that serve of Henman's these days is a lot down to Tim Newnham, the former British javelin thrower, Commonwealth Games athlete, who now works full-time for the LTA and largely with Henman.
Henman just questioning that call. Thought it was a fault and maybe just eased up after the serve. Wasn't really looking for the volley, just seeing what hit the line there. Is that same trainer working with Greg Ruzetsky?
No. I mean, he is employed by the LTA, and he'll work with anybody the LTA wants. But he's here, and he travels a lot with Henman. And the LTA know they have a duel, and they're handling it very carefully.
I was just very impressed with the way Greg Ruzetsky moved the other day. I was just wondering whether he'd been working with anybody on that in particular. His court movement was exceptional.
I have a feeling the battle is really starting to get going here, because Muster is beginning to give him problems as he comes in. Henman seems to me shows no sign of being scared by that. So this is pitch warfare.
Well, that's the danger, isn't it? Tim's been very accurate on his serve. Muster has started to get on it. And what happens, you just try for a little bit too much.
And this is the first time so far in the match that Henman's been in danger of dropping his serve. Oh, that's a wonderful shot. That's Muster absolutely at his best. And he just loves it, and the crowd love that too. There's a change. Muster too low.
Well, apart from that double fault, which he really did go for, Henman didn't do too much wrong here. Pretty unlucky. Anytime you get the lob over your opponent's head, got to be feeling pretty good. I just think he really had to cover the line there. He left a big gap.
Important point, I think, because it looked for a moment to me as if Henman, for the first time, found he couldn't find a ball to get in on. But he did.
Love 15.
And he won the point.
Well, it sounds crazy, Jerry, but I'm of the opinion that he just wants to avoid those long rallies so badly that he's almost better off going for a bit too much and making an error. It just takes too much out of you if Muster starts running around the court. He's such a heavy hitter of the ball. Over the course of 5 sets, you'll be exhausted. The whole thing too, Muster really enjoys the physicality of a tennis match. If you can take that away from him, he's not quite as happy. Just a shot there of Bruno Roubaud.
That's beautifully played.
Once again, just showing us the great touch he has. He has quite a closed racket face on the forehand volley. His preferred side is off to the cross court.
Early chance for break back. And he gets it with the help of that double fault. So Muster's lead in the second set is reduced to 2-1. Henman leads 1 set to 0. Out individuals, and I haven't spotted them, but I know they're here. Richard Lewis is down there, David Felgate, Jeremy Bates, Tim Newnham, the former javelin thrower, he's down there. So it's quite a team Henman assembled.
Why is it when anyone becomes any good, they end up with an entourage?
Well, you know, I didn't think I'd ever say this, but I've been saying it actually for about 5 years now. We have a very good LTA, and it's very well organised, and they know that through the years they've made the mistake of letting young players go into the men's game without any help, particularly abroad.
I don't know if they'll show that point in replay, but that was a very smart shot. The backhand of Henman, high, not much on it, good depth, good control. I really do appreciate the way he changes the flight of the ball, the angle, the pace, the spin.
It was a gamble, but it was beautifully worked out. It's pre-plotted. We've seen that point time and time again already, and Henman's got level. I must say this, I think Greg Rosetsky, is a great help to Henman, simply because he's providing him with somebody to keep vaulting over. Rosetsky now just in front of Henman in the ranking.
Love 15.
Yes, I think that's an important point. If you look at some tennis dynasties, you look at the Australian dynasty, they definitely pushed each other along. The Swedes throughout the late 70s and during the 80s. Nowadays, the Spanish. Always helps to have more than one. Well, it didn't work for him this time, but once again, I think it's a pretty good play. Going straight at the body of Thomas Muster, and in the end, you'd have to say he was a little bit lucky to get away with that. I don't think he really could have told you where that was going. One thing you notice with players that aren't particularly natural volleys, they really do, when they come to the net, they really do rush the net. They like to play their volleys from as close as possible, so by going at the body,
Muster leads. Henman leads by 1 set to love. Trying terribly hard to be objective about the Henman thing, not to get to lead people into expecting too much too soon. But whenever I see him play matches like this on the great stadiums of the world, it is exciting to see a British player with so much talent and such a beautifully pure player.
15 love.
I think we in Australia are suffering the same thing with Philippoussis and Rafter. Everybody desperate for them to make that breakthrough and possibly win a major. We all believe they've got the game to do it.
15 all. Pretty 15.
That's 7 aces from Henman, second in this set.
And the thing that's impressed me today is the accuracy of that first serve. We've seen him serve fairly consistently up around the 120s, but really has been pegging lines with that first serve.
Henman. 3 games all, second set. Henman wins it.
3 games all.
Another thing about Henman is that he always seems to me, Wally, to play with a wonderful, mature emotional equilibrium. You know what I mean? He double fault on the first point. You don't see him going to a slump. Just carries on, dismisses it.
Well, you talk about his temperament. I just don't know how he plays with all the attention he receives during that Wimbledon fortnight. That match against Paul Harhus on the set court, that was just a madhouse. He seemed to be the only one that was keeping his head. He obviously read that famous Kipling line as he walked onto centre court. I don't know Tim particularly well, but I have a feeling it comes from intelligence. I believe he's a pretty smart guy. It really does show when he plays tennis. He's a real thinking man. Well, he didn't get away with it here, Henman, but it is a great approach. Just look at that. Very hard to play a passing shot as you're running forward to a low ball. Henman's done that very well. He's varied his pace. And one thing Thomas Muster does have is very extreme Western grips. He doesn't mind the ball up around his ears, but when it's down a bit lower, he really does have to work hard. Well, it's called a smash, and that's just what he does. Absolutely buries it.
And Muster goes ahead by the odd game. 4-3 he leads in the second set. Henman leads 1 set to 3.
I do what I do best. I take scores. You do what you do best. Trying to stop guys like me.
And blind, I mean, we didn't let each other see. We were going to write down the 6 most promising young talents in the game, in the men's game. I think we'd both put Henman in there, and Philippoussis, and Rafter, your 2. Do you agree with that?
Well, I definitely would. Those 3 you've just mentioned are possibly the 3 most marketable too.
Love 15. 15 all.
That is just a great move to the net. The moment he saw that Thomas Muster was about to play a slice, Henman just charged to the net. Muster not noted for the penetration on his slice. Henman had a pretty good idea he was going to float it. Good thinking. A pretty crucial point. He was down love 15.
$15.30.
Well, at 15-30 down, he produced a great second serve, really had a lot of bite on it, took Muster way out of court at 30 all, really did jam him.
Look at that young man. You'd expect he'd have rushed that one. Let's go and get it finished. No lack of control again. Complete composure on his 4-all.
Well, my old coach used to say to me, never send a man on a boy's errand. You see a lot of that today in the men's game, along with Tim Henman.
Love.
Well, it's been part of Henman's plan not to give Thomas too much pace, but that one really ballooning off the strings.
Again, look at the way he just improvised there.
15 all.
Very quick perception, mental perception, Henman has. What a copy of the video of this one for that shot.
Well, he almost had a quick little look at his box there. For recognition, that really was played well. You can see he's back virtually to the net. Very difficult shot.
Well, just for once, that was the shot of the Royal player, because he played it almost before the ball had come to it.
I think Muster may have surprised him there. I think he was looking for the kick serve and Muster slid it into his body.
.54, and the longer it goes, the more this close second set in which Muster had a lead of 2-love, the more important it is, I think, in the ultimate destination of this match.
Again,
Muster leads 5-4. Henman leads by 1 set to love. He took the first set
leads by 5 games to 4.
Muster's managed to break the serve only once so far. But this is a particularly testing service game, I think, coming up here. 4-5.
15 love.
That produces Henman's 9th ace.
$15.
Why make a big deal of it?
Well, Henman did the right thing getting out of the court here, because Muster has been known to put these absolutely through you. I always get the feeling he mishit that one. Well, for once, Muster's footwork wasn't quite as it should have been. Just taking one big step when a couple of little ones was maybe the option.
White piece.
5 cents.
One of those occasions there where Muster really was using force that I think wasn't called for at the time.
That's an unusual mistake for him, because the usual play for Thomas is to really dip the ball at the feet and then have a crack at the passing shot. Just trying to bludgeon that second serve.
Henman.
5 games all.
5 games all.
He hasn't forgotten the script, and he hasn't scared. And I agree with you that he's a delightful person, well-mannered, well brought up.
Well, Muster really looks the part at the net here. Very confident forehand volley. Short.
Service.
Technically very sound.
$40.
I think there's not much doubt that simply because Henman came out and was in such a glorious rhythm from the start, it took Muster only 10 or 15 minutes to realise that he couldn't let the youngster dictate the match to him the way Henman was. That's a love game to Muster, and it puts him in front by 6 games to 5 in the second set.
The lead by 6 games to 5.
Just look at the size of this place. 23,000 23,500 holes. I would say there are about 16, 17,000 in here. Night crowds have been much the better.
Love. Out. 30 love.
Well, Musta just making a couple of gestures there. I think he's having a bit of trouble with the swirling breeze. The breeze at this stage is just coming from behind his back, so maybe the ball is being held up. Not really coming onto his racket. Well, you could just freeze, slow-mo this backhand volley and put it on an instructional video. That is absolutely perfect.
Henman.
Well, to serve out a love game like that and play so incisively and with such complete freedom is further testimony, I think, to this man's Henman's innate temperament. It's in his genes, you know. His grandfather played at Wimbledon, played Davis Cup. I slightly before my time, Wally, but I'm told that this is a curious thing. He was extremely unorthodox.
Henman. White, please. Good service.
His 10th ace of the match. That was 118 miles an hour. Below his quickest. Today, at least. 125 fastest today.
Well, it was a little bit of a bluff coming in off that backhand. He really was almost hesitant, scooped up that low ball. But sometimes that's what a tiebreak is about. Henman just slowing Musta down now.
Didn't work that time, but he's never let Musta settle.
3, 2.
As soon as he spotted a worthwhile chance to chip and come in, or run him out of position and then come in, he's done it all the time. Musta just likes to stand there and put his 2 feet down heavily and slog. And Henman won't let him do it.
Well, Musta tried 3 lobs in that passage of play, and he did have the wind at his back. It was almost impossible to get that ball to come up and down in such a short time with the wind at his back. So tactically, not a good tiebreaker from Musta. Henman continuing to do all the right things, not changing a winning game.
Muster had said that the balls here fluff up quite quickly after 2 or 3 games, and that one would assume, if it was true, would be in his favour. Slower ball. 4-2. Still got this beautiful rhythm. The number of first serves he's been getting in. Right from the start he's had that rhythm in his serve.
Henman. Three, Henman.
Well, again, it was a bit of a bluff. Certainly it was a gamble, but it paid off.
6-3.
And it gives Henman 3 chances to take a lead of 2 sets to love. The crowd trying to lift Muster or trying to encourage the young Englishman. First serve in again. And it's been like that right from the start, and he's already done better, really, than I thought he would. It's a superb performance, really is. And it's just so exciting to be a British commentator watching a young British player play like this.
Well, Jerry, that you've mentioned it. It's that serve. It's really the platform that he's building this this victory upon, or so far. He's basically, when he gets his first serve in, he's up around 70 or 80% points won, and he's just serving terribly accurately. That last point right into the Muster body, but really has played very well, and I like the way that he's taken the pace off the ball too. He hasn't tried to slog it out with Muster when he is involved in baseline rallies. He's almost taken a lot of the pace off and made Muster do all the hard work generating the pace.
I'm actually wondering what that is. It's a shot from the old centre court, where, incidentally, last year played and lost to Edberg eventually in the last 16, and that's Venus Williams. Who else could it be with the hairdo, signing autographs after her match?
You have to presume she won, the fact that she's signing autographs, I guess.
American tennis in a state of acute anxiety about the future, but she's certainly one of their best young prospects.
Okay, well, let's do the ball boys with Mike here. Me and the ball boys. Okay. Mikey and the ball boys. Yeah. Boy, what a crew. You guys should be smoking cigars, and I should turn this thing on and work back. Okay. Yeah. Right, see you guys later.
Well, there seems to be a problem here, so I'll try and remember what it was like to do sound commentary all those years ago.
He's like a storm just about to happen.
Panic over.
30-15.
Still the rhythm on the serve. Must be a beautiful feeling. And the crispness on the volley, and the immovable spirit, no panic, no excitement. And he's at the net. Henman going great guns here. 2 sets to love and 1 love.
Love. 15 all.
Well, it's one thing to have a game plan, it's another thing to
15-30.
execute. And Tim Henman, in what is pretty difficult conditions down there, is doing it perfectly.
Oh, well, it's magical stuff. And I thought it was significant that Muster, who might have come in about 2 shots before that, didn't come in.
Well, that was pretty cheeky from
15-40.
Tim Henman there. Muster had a bounce smash. Henman had crept into the net. I think Muster would have got quite a surprise to see him there. Brings up 2 break points.
$30-40. Deuce.
Very impassive, Tim Henman. He's just had 2 break points, 2 errors. Doesn't show much.
Wait, correct. First serve. First serve. Advantage Muster. And Muster.
Well, he had to win that service game, did Muster, to have gone a break down, having already gone 2 sets down, would have been calamitous for him.
Just noticing on a couple of the big points now, those break points that he faced, Muster going to the forehand of Henman. I think he believes that Henman approaches a little better off the backhand side.
Block 15.
Well, I still think Muster is trying to hit that return a bit hard. That was actually a shank. That ball had rolled around the frame a couple of times. He might be advised at this point, Henman is serving so well, Muster just to move up to the baseline and maybe try to push a few back, block a few back with a shorter swing. He really is taking a big cut at the ball.
Well, that was rather like one of the senior boys giving the new kid a whop just to put him in his place.
15-30.
And again. This is Muster imposing himself suddenly.
15-40.
Thirteen aces from Henman. That one timed at 122 miles an hour, just below his fastest, 2 or 3 miles an hour. And that's only the second time in the match so far that Muster's broken his serve. Muster's probably starting to read this serve. 2-1 Muster leads.
Wings, and that ball just in the block hole. Didn't quite get it into the body, didn't quite get it away. Right in the hitting zone. You can just see there that little bit of forward momentum on the return, always important.
So the world's watching, and in case you wonder what that is, it's just outside. It's part of the development here. William is just trying to point to a place bottom right-hand side on that globe.
Just trying to point Canberra out to you there, Jerry.
All right, okay. Part of the grounds here of Flushing Meadows, there was a World Fair here, and they very artistically woven this into the general development as it's progressed, particularly in this new centre court here.
Yeah, there's a real symmetry to the stadium and the surrounds now.
Yes.
Before it just seemed like a real mishmash of courts and buildings.
2 sets up Henman, Muster serving 2-1 with a break in the third.
Love.
Well, Henman maybe just a little bit casual there. It was a good reply from Muster, taken so far out of court. Good touch. Henman had a lot of time. He was going over the high part of the net.
Continues to be a model of positive thinking, Henman.
Well, it didn't work for him that time, but that's what he's done so well today. A lot of players are so afraid of the Muster forehand. They attack his backhand relentlessly. Muster ends up parking himself in that backhand corner and hitting forehands anyway. But Henman has really opened the court up by going to the Muster forehand. And then when he gets the short reply, he's got a large area to come in on the backhand.
And what distracted Muster there, I'm quite sure, was because Henman suddenly chipped the return and came in behind it, and Muster looks up and suddenly there's something that could take his eye off the ball. Muster leads 3-1, and if Henman, being human, is going to have a slight dip in morale, it's going to be at about this place in a long match, which this could well yet turn out to be. You move from one plateau to another.
Yeah, it's one of the difficult things about playing best of 5-set tennis. It's almost impossible to concentrate for the duration.
15 love. Love. At second service.
Still arrowing that serve beautifully deep near the sidelines. I detect no hint of self-doubt, even though it's a breakdown. Oh, that's the most beautifully crisp volley you can imagine. And that slightly closes the gap to 3-2 in the third set. Muster in the lead with a break, but Henman leading by 2 sets to
leads
love.
by 3 games to 2.
Henman just standing his ground there on the volley. Really does have good hands. And one thing about the Henman volley, he volleys so far out in front of his body, which is so important.
When you see him play shots like that, the forehand and the volley, you know, no backswing, and it is extraordinary. When I was saying earlier on, it's extraordinary to me that apparently his grandfather was so unorthodox, because this is purity of technique, isn't it?
Yes, Tim Henman has always reminded me a little bit of Stefan Edberg.
Time.
Just in movement, preparation on the backhand side, and the volley.
Must have break up in 3-2. With a profitable ploy that by Henman. He's tried it again and again. Chipping in.
Love 15.
That concludes our coverage on Sky Sports 3 for the moment. You won't miss anything. Do turn over to Sky Sports in the third set against Thomas Muster. He's 2 sets to love up, and check this out. Muster's after him. He's had enough. And don't tangle with Thomas, the Iron Man. 15-30 down, but they're having fun out there. This one could have a long way to run. Wally Mazur and Jerry Williams are your commentators.
15-30. Muster with the break in the third set. Henman 2 sets to love up.
30 all.
Point for Muster to take a lead of 4-2.
Muster leads 4 games to 2.
And 4-2 it is. That marvellous bit of fun just now revealed a side to Muster that the crowd seldom see. But in fact, he can be a man of great generosity. He said to me when we first got here, before the tournament had even begun, he said things about Henman and his talent, but were very generous. He said he just hoped that he wouldn't be too good when he played him. Well, he has been good so far.
I must say, this is as nice as I've seen Thomas on a tennis court. Normally he's a little bit more antagonistic.
Well, he tries to intimidate all the time, doesn't he? It's part of his personality.
Henman did the right thing running up the alleyway, though. You don't want to mess with him.
50 all.
I remember one year here at the US Open, there was quite a lot of controversy. Thomas Muster put a sitter right through Yannick Noah and then proceeded to run his finger across his throat. And Noah did not appreciate it.
Chummy thing to do. Well, we've got some new viewers, we're told, from London on Sky Sports 1, and we bring you good news, which you can see here. Tim Henman has been playing from the very first point quite beautifully, wonderfully incisively. He's got a superb rhythm on his serve. He's 2 sets up, put a break down here.
Already 15.
Break down, 2-4 down, 30-15 up on his serve.
(40-15). (40-30). And Henman
Good serving again.
still leads 4
Quick.
games to 3.
Well placed, lovely rhythm. He's never lost the rhythm. 4-3.
Yes, I like that. The fact that Tim hasn't been deterred from his game plan by anything today. He's been broken a couple of times, hasn't panicked. I thought at Wimbledon against Michael Stick and on a few other matches, he just tried to serve too hard. And it's a given fact, Tim Henman's fastest serve today is 125 miles an hour. It's very hard for him to generate much more pace than that, and he shouldn't try to. He works hard for his power in any case, but today, as you said, a beautiful rhythm on his serve, and he's varied the pace and the direction well. Just get to watch this point in replay. Good court coverage from Muster. Continues chasing Henman out of the stadium. Good bit of byplay.
Yes, without a doubt, this has been this moment has been the best moment so far for entertainment value in the whole of this year's United States Open, and those pictures are going to be shown all around the world, time and time again. I'll bet you. Terrific. Still with a break here. 2 sets down, but 4-3 up and serving.
Low. Love. (30-15).
Well, Muster was wrong-footed by a long way there, and it was because Henman had held the ball for so long. Just holding the racket face open at the last minute, rolling it cross court.
Yes, just long.
40-15.
I think you can tell from some of the spectators' reaction to this that Henman's won a lot of friends here, a lot of admirers.
.40-30.
Another point for 5-3.
Well, it's been a brave tactic, but Tim really has given Thomas no pace all day long. He has chipped and floated the backhand, rolled the forehand, and Worcester is essentially a counterpuncher.
Advantage Henman.
He can get back here. Well, that was one of the very few poor shots he played in the whole match. Wasn't really decisive at all.
Yes, maybe just being a little... Have a look at the unforced errors there. Not too much difference. Big difference in the winners, though. Yes, I guess if there is a time when you do have to be positive and attack, it's on break point. And make your own luck.
Again, Mustafa.
5-3 he leads, but that was a close call, both on that point and also
Mustafa leads 5 games
in that game. Now, of course, Musta's an old hand at stuff like this. Big crowds, Grand Slam championships, big stadium, big atmosphere. But Henman, as he did there, continues to play this as if he'd just strolled out into the park, play a friendly match against a pal. Apparently experiencing no pressure at all. I find it quite remarkable.
Well, Muster just known for his great court coverage, just imploring Henman to hit it back to him here.
40 low.
Love game. Another good, outstanding service game by Henman. And Muster leads 5-4. Henman leads 2 sets to love. It's inborn in a player, isn't it? The ability to, in front of a huge crowd and world television audience, to play with such freedom, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things about playing tennis. When you do walk out onto a court, you take out a lot of emotional baggage out there with you. Your personality, you can never escape it. Some players don't like crowds, they don't like pressure. There are some players that just thrive on it. Thomas Muster's one of them. There are some guys out there on tour that you just could not beat in practice. Put them in a match situation and they don't fire up. There was that point, Muster begging the ball to come back to him.
Well, he's come out right from the start as Henman, and he's played with freshness, clear. He's been clear-sighted and on a wave of inspiration. But now perhaps we're down to the real nitty-gritty. This is more like two fighters are going to have to slug it out, and Muster's wonderful at this stuff. Grabbed a few laughs along the way. He wasn't going to let Henman have everyone on his side, and he succeeded in that respect, serving for the set here.
Well, Muster's taken quite a bit off his serve at the moment. There's one thing, when the ball's coming at you slowly, you've really got to move your feet. Henman a little flat-footed on some of these second serves, just reaching for the ball. It's been pretty gusty out there.
Pick up by Henman. His ground shots generally stood up wonderfully well. But Muster's onto all this stuff.
30-15.
Well, what delicacy.
Well, you'd back Tim 9 times out of 10 in this situation. Just a lot softer hands, better feel around the net, better anticipation.
5-4, 30 all, third set. .40-30 and a set point. It's for the third set.
Well, he's just telling himself to get his feet moving there, just a bit flat-footed.
Yes, he remembered his lines all right, but Muster's passes, I think, have got more and more short. I think he's starting to read some of the angles that Henman's coming in on. It really is a battle now. 6-4, the third set goes to Muster after Henman has taken a lead of 2 sets to love. Good match. Crowd loving it.
Well, Tim's approaches have just lost a little bit of their authority. In the first couple of sets, he really was pegging lines and moving the ball around. That last set, he was starting to come in a little bit on the bluff. Just poking the ball down the middle and following it in.
15 love.
Very important for Tim in a match like this. When it gets to the closing stages, he has to go out to win the match. Thomas Muster's not going to lose it.
Certainly the fourth time that he's pulled a double fault in this match, Henman. Serving the highest quality.
15, Frody. Thirty.
Muster is saying he wasn't ready, or was distracted by somebody or something. Don't know what it was. Neither the umpire. The point stands. And Henman opens the fourth set by holding his serve yet again, in spite of, in that game, most out of character, serving 2 double faults. What's Muster complaining about? There was something in the crowd, a shout or something?
The ace that Tim served during that game, Muster was suggesting that he had his arms raised for the point to be replayed, but I don't think that was the case. I think he was pretty much facing Tim at the time. Just have a look at the summary of set 3. First serve percentage, Tim reasonably good at 56%, only 1 double fault. But you just see the Henman unforced errors at 17. Obviously he will hit more winners and make more unforced errors than Muster, as he is making the play, but maybe just a fraction too many. That was a great half volley. Just watch Thomas Muster's footwork in slow motion. One of the best movers in the game, along with Chang and Jim Courier, in my opinion.
Henman 2-1, having been 2 sets to love up. Muster serving love 1. Very cool.
Love 15.
This is just showing that Henman's not the only one who can play the fanciful shots round the net.
15-all.
Well, Muster's not noted for his touch, particularly at the net. He's played a couple of beauties today. Just get the feeling Tim's got to lift a little bit now. The momentum really shifted.
One game all, fourth set. Of course, you can't surf the waves of inspiration all the time. They're going to get little moments when suddenly things are not happening exactly the way you want it, when you can't play by instinct. Henman's played most of this match, it seems to me, by instinct, and it's just been flowing. So this is a time for grown-up stuff, perhaps, for him for a bit.
15 love.
It's always very important at the beginning of the fourth set, 2 sets to 1 up. If he can just get that early break, it's an enormous lead to have.
30 love.
Sometimes you've just got to tell yourself to make it happen. Reinforce a lot of positive ideas. Go over your game plan in your head. But just judging by that shot, I think the wind is a little more gusty out there than we think. That ball moved a good 3 or 4 feet in the air, even though it was mishit.
Well, whatever it was, just for a moment, bothered him. Henman's come through that. He leads 2-1 and 2 sets to 1. And there's a thin veil of cloud
And leads by 2 games to 1.
at the moment, shielding the sun. There was, at the start of the day, some talk of rain later on, but I don't think it's going to interrupt this match.
Worcester on this occasion, Henman had volleyed very deep down the centre of the court. No angle from Worcester. He really did try to rip it back through Tim.
It's very natural the way he follows in the serve, isn't it? You can't teach somebody to do that. Remember how Lendl used to try? And all he was doing, really, he'd do the serve, and then he'd sort of stop, and then make a second movement.
I guess the good thing about Tim's serve is he has quite a deep knee bend. He rocks nicely on his serve onto the back foot. Big, deep knee bend, and he really does launch himself up and into the ball. And a lot like Stefan Edberg in that respect, and it really does throw him into the court. And he is a good mover in any case, but what I really like about Tim is the way he sets up for that first volley. He's always looking for the ball. The racket's way out in front of the body. One of the best parts of his game.
1-2, fourth set.
Love 15.
Well, that's good. You see Henman just skipping across the court. Now's the time. He's got to seize his chances here. He's at the good end. He's got the wind coming over his left shoulder.
$15.
That approach was short.
30-15. And Muster.
That's a decisive service game by Muster. 2 games all, fourth set. Henman leading by 2 sets to 1, having led by 2 sets to love. And it's rather harder work, I think, for Henman now. And a test of other qualities, perhaps.
Love 15.
That'll do him good, because the serve, he got the rhythm back again. There've been a couple of double faults
15-all.
from him, and another one there.
Just see on that first volley how close his eyes were to the racket head. The closer you can keep those two things together, the more consistent you'll be on the volley.
30-15. Let second service.
That's beautiful volleying. What a wonderfully sure touch. It's almost never left him. You can't think of 3 or 4 volleys really in this match, I can't at least, where he suddenly dithered or not be quite sure. He's been close into the net. He's starting to just question 1 or 2 calls. Bruno Rebieux, the Frenchman there, one of the top umpires in the world, he's having none of that.
Forty 30.
I think thought that ball was going to go out, and he had to adjust at the very last minute. Did well there, Henman, to win that game, because after that call, he thought he'd had a bad call on the serve, and it could have bothered him.
Well, he showed me by taking that smash on the full that he's pretty confident that ball was coming down from a great height, and that's always difficult to do. You'll see most players opt to let that one bounce. Good sign of confidence. There it is in replay. And a rare show of emotion.
Do you see a technical weakness in him? I can't say I ever have done.
Well, to my way of thinking, he probably just is a little bit light. His game is a little bit light to ever really threaten the top levels of the game. If you look at Sampras, he has all the touch, the movement, and he combines it with some awesome power. I haven't quite seen that yet in Tim, not on the serve and not on the ground shots. He's very neat player, but probably just lacks that real ferocity off the ground or off the serve, for example, so that when he is having a day where not everything's going right, he can fall back on those weapons.
Lot 15. Service.
That might be a little bit of a harsh comparison, comparing him with Sampras, who may be the best player we've ever seen.
But Sampras himself was telling me he sees a lot of his own characteristics 2 or 3 years ago when he watches Henman play.
A lot of people told me when Henman was starting out that he was like Sampras. I've always seen him more of an Edberg.
40-15.
Yeah, Sampras himself sees him like Edberg. I see him like Sampras. Not bad players to be compared with, are they?
Musta. Three against all.
Yes, that probably wasn't the best approach to play to Musta. Usually he's played him wide or kept the ball low and really cut it into that deep in the backhand corner. But you can't get every approach shot right.
Low.
I always think it's a special disposition that goes with a good servant, Ollie. You had it, Wally. The one that doesn't worry when it goes wrong. If you get past a couple of times, you don't have a sudden nervous breakdown or begin to doubt.
Well, that is a beautiful backhand. But just getting back to your point about serve and volleying, you do have to absorb a lot of disappointment, and there are occasions when guys do get onto your serve, but what you're trying to do is build up pressure over time. Just recently, this summer in particular, we've seen Pat Rafter do it very well. You keep boring in, you keep asking questions of your opponent, you keep giving them targets. As the match goes on, it appears to get smaller and smaller.
Well, that's a quite outstanding service game by Henman. It just shows that in the heat of the kitchen, I suppose this is the greatest heat that's been generated yet in this match, because it's been just so beautifully freewheeling, at least the first two sets were.
I've always felt it provides the best tennis.
To return to the point about his, I'm not sure you actually used the phrase, but his body weight or the weight of his hitting. I don't think he'll ever be a big barrel-chested athlete like, for example, Musta, just watching Musta there. But you can be a lithe athlete, can't you? And timing can produce a different sort of pace.
Yeah, I guess I was just maybe not talking about sheer speed, but weight of shot, a heavy shot off the ground. And Tim moves the ball around very well, and he takes it early and he times the ball very sweetly. But I just question whether he's quite heavy enough off the ground and off that serve. And I guess what we are talking about too is to make it to the very top of the game. Well, Tim did not question that serve, but looked a little bit long.
Musta now, I think, more than at any stage in this match, has got to be in the Iron Man, because time's slightly running out in this match for him. And perhaps most especially at this moment. 2-1 down, 3-4 down, and 30 all on his serve. Now who's going to play it tough? Henman is.
Well, there it is again. Henman giving Muster no pace. And he's a lot better when the ball's crunched at him. Doesn't always like to generate pace.
Now, if Henman gets a break here, serves the match.
Deuce.
Well, Muster there showing us his true colours on break point. He had a short forehand, hit it, made his way back to the baseline.
Service. Advantage Muster.
Close.
Again, Muster.
Muster was quite happy about it. He would be. Henman didn't seem even to raise an eyebrow. 4-all.
4 games all.
And this really is a pitch battle here.
$15 love.
Long.
30 love.
He's got in 2 beautiful first serves again in this game, just when he needs it.
First service.
Well, it's been a profitable tactic for Tim today. That first volley down the middle of the court, not allowing Muster any angle. He does pass very well on the run.
Henman.
Another a love game to Henman. 2 successive on his serve. He's right from the very start trusted implicitly the strategy he'd predetermined. And it's at moments like this, in a match of this importance, at a Grand Slam championship against one of the toughest players in the world, this is what separates the good losers from the good winners. And Henman might, more and more, you get the feeling that he's going to be a good winner of this match.
Well, you said it, Jerry. He really has stuck to his guns, so to speak. He's had a game plan, and it just shows that he really does have self-belief, because out there, when you are playing on a centre court in a big match like this, it's easy to become a little bit nervous, lose a bit of self-confidence. But Tim today, I just get the feeling, I agree with you, I think he will win this match purely because he does have that self-belief. Muster has been the case throughout this match. He's always been out of the chair first and then taking the full time out. Let's hope he drank some Coca-Cola, had a hit of caffeine, something, just to get him over the line.
Well, he relishes it, does Muster, these situations. Born competitor. But he's in trouble. He's 4-5, 2 sets to 1 down. He's got to win his serve, or he's a goner. And that was the thoroughbred.
15 love.
What Henman had been doing in the first couple of sets, he'd been playing this shot to the Muster forehand and not coming in on the next one when he had the opportunity to come in on the backhand.
15-all. White, please. White, please. Thank you.
Floated that exactly to the same point. I'd like to know if somebody could work out how many times he's played precisely that point.
Maybe on a big point like that, he's really got to be thinking of bunting that ball back down the middle, getting it in play. Once he establishes the return, he's been doing pretty well.
That was a wonderful shot by Henman there, stretching out there, wide to his forehand, controlling the ball. Muster smiling, but
30,
it looks a rather thin smile, that, because Henman is 1 point from putting out the 5th seed.
White, please.
Stop beating heart, only for a second.
Well, that's got to hurt. He did all the hard work, some great scrambling, a terrific lob.
White, please.
Finally, when the opportunity presented itself.
Stuck it right in the same target again. Stood his ground, didn't panic.
Well, what a terrific point this is. I think Jerry's getting more nervous than Tim Henman. Just look at the composure there on the stop volley, and that's one of the hardest things to do when you are nervous.
Quiet, please. Ready
A
to
bit
play.
of applause there from Muster.
Quiet, please.
That's point again.
Thank you.
He went for the same spot, like a boxer going for a cut-eye. Generous applause from the crowd. And Muster, congratulations. That's a very sporting thing. But Henman has today taken on this biggest centre court in the whole world. The new centre court, the Arthur Ashe Stadium at the US Open. He's taken on one of the real tough guys, one of the real muscle men of this game. He came out and he played, well, on a wave of sheer inspiration. He had wonderful touch, a clear mind. He knew exactly how he was going to play the match tactically. He didn't let his chin drop when he dropped the 3rd set, having taken a lead of 2 sets to love. And he's won, I would say, completely on merit. And I just find myself, as a Brit, thinking, gosh, it's been a long time to see people play like this. Because Rosetsky the other day played wonderfully well as well. But that was a performance of the most sublime excellence, I thought.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you, Jerry. I was very impressed with the way he stuck to his game plan. Gave Muster not a lot of pace throughout the match. It was a very brave thing to do. Very composed, Tim Henman. And I've had a great deal of respect for Thomas Muster over the years, and once again he's shown me what a great competitor he is. He never says die, and when he does retire, he'll have no regrets.
So this has been yet another of those days. I remember in beating Kafelnikov. Weren't you and I sitting watching that on the centre court at Wimbledon? Was it you or Alan Stone?
Oh, my memory doesn't stretch back that far.
Well, I remember that, and I thought that was yet further evidence that at any level, given the right day, he could beat perhaps all but the very best players.
Doesn't show a lot of emotion, Tim, after he wins this match. You'd think that the pressure had built up over a period of time. No real jubilation, very businesslike, and made a quick exit off the court.
Yeah, well, it's just wonderful. A lot of us have waited a long time to see performances like that, and Tim Henman, utterly on merit, has outplayed Thomas Muster in the first round here. The 5th seed's a goner, and I can't see a Union Jack, but if there was one around in our commentary box here, Chris Bailey, Bill Threlfall, the rest of the team would be waving it. Maybe even Mazur was, except he's an Aussie.
Duke Flyer, wasn't it? I mean, here he is in another rally. He's just chipping the ball. His length today,
yes,
not just his volleys, but everything. And here comes in Muster, and if we could just stop it there, he's got so many options. And this is where Tim Henman is so good. He could go down the line here. He could go cross-court here, which would be the best shot.
Muster's kind of got it covered.
Yeah, he's got the low part of the net there. Tim's got so much time. But if we run it on, we'll just see which shot he chooses. And let's just see what he chooses here. Awesome. Tim Henman at his best, and there's his talent showing through.
It looked like a forehand that Karachi was coming up with yesterday. How about this little drop volley? Now, this is serving for the first set at 5-3. If you're going to get nervous, this is just about the time that he's going to get tight. Not a bit of it. Let's take another look at it. Decent first volley down the middle. Always a good place to go.
And here we are on a big point in the second set, and if we could just stop it there.
Stop it right there. Let me just identify that point for you. This is at the start of the 3rd set, and we were a little bit worried about the momentum changing, Mark.
We were, yeah. This was a big point. This was to go up a break in the 3rd set. Here we got Tim. He could go here with the volley, and what he's been doing a lot of the match is just dropping it short right there. But if we run it on a bit, and we just run it on.
I thought it was going to change there. I've got to tell you, I thought it was going to change. A chance to go a break up in the 3rd set, Andy. He spooned it long. I thought Muster might come back.
We talked about momentum earlier in the programme, and here was a possible change of momentum. And, you know, fortunately, it never happened.
Ferreira's next. What do you say?
Let's go for it. Yeah, he's on a roll. He's playing really well. There's no reason why he can't win it now.
He's defending 4th round points. It was the last thing on his mind. The most composed performance. Just very, very impressive indeed. OK, well, Thomas Muster is out to go alongside Goran Ivanisevic, the number 4 seed. Tim Henman advances. Let's catch up with all the men's results as we have them today.